Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Saturday recap, where we are going to recap quite a day full of stories at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps on qualifying day, where we saw two exciting feeder series races and a qualifying session full of many talking points. Let's talk about it. I'm going to start with the races that we saw today. Let's start with the exciting but controversial race which we just saw take place, finished just now, in controversial circumstances, in a Formula 2 race held in emotional circumstances, as obviously this was the race last year where we saw the tragic incident that happened. So today they were racing for him. They had a minute's silence for Anton Hubert. They had a minute's silence before the race, and then it was time to go racing. And the best tribute Formula 2 could have paid is to put on a good show, and you can say they did that successfully, even despite the penalty at the end. So, at the start of the race, everything went to plan for Yuki Tsunoda. As you can see, he got off the line. He didn't get the best of launches and was swarmed by both Mazepin and Matsushita. But Matsushita managed to get past Mazepin, and both of them were slowed up, which meant that Yuki Tsunoda could pull a gap. In the background, you had Guilherme Samaya stalling on the grid, whilst you also had Jehan Daruva. I'm not sure who he made contact with, but he broke his front wing on the exit of turn 1. I saw what happened. So that's not something that we saw happen in the Formula 3 race in the morning, but we didn't actually quite see who it was with. But that was his race ruined. And then at the start of the race, Nobuharu Matsushita got to second, but then fell down the order and then was into combat with his teammate, but he cut across going into Blanchimont. Thankfully, he spun before he impacted the tyre wall. Thankfully, he did get out of the car, as you can see in the picture there. But it was a little bit silly to cut across on Drugovich like that, and I'm pretty sure that would have been quite an awkward team debrief, because it did ruin Felipe Drugovich's race. But Matsushita went into the wall. He was really struggling on tyres, and then he went into the wall. The virtual safety car was brought out. I was surprised it wasn't the full safety car. But the virtual safety car came out, and once the virtual safety car came in, the soft tyres, which didn't seem to have much life, started to grade, and we saw many drivers pit. But a lot of drivers had issues in the pits, and that included race leader Yuki Tsunoda, and as a result, he lost out to Nikita Mazepin in the end. And Mazepin took the lead. Guan Yu Zhu was on the alternate strategy, and he looked like he could possibly make some movements towards the end, because he was really fighting his way through those on the soft tyres that were struggling with their tyres at the beginning of the race before they pitted. But then he pitted, but locked up on cold tyres going into Les Combes and lost 3 positions. He did make them back up again in the end. But lap 19, there was a round of applause for Anton Hubert. The tributes to Anton Hubert were absolutely brilliant. I have to really commend Formula 1 management and Formula 2 for paying their respects the way that they have been this weekend. It was always going to be emotional coming back to Spa a year on, but they have handled it very well, I'd say, and have really been putting on a great show in his honour. And talking of great shows, Yuki Tsunoda then caught up to Nikita Mazepin, and he first tried round the outside, but couldn't quite make it stick. He ran out of road and went into the runoff area. Whilst in the midfield, in the battle for reverse grid pole, Roy Nissany was having a very good race, and here you can see him getting up the inside of Callum Eilert for 9th place. And then he got a run on Luca Giotto and pulled off an incredible dummy going into Les Combes and took 8th place and reverse grid pole. But the battle for the lead was not done. as on the penultimate lap, Yuki Tsunoda went for the move on Mazepin. And it looks like he might go all the way around the outside, but ran out of road in the end. He went off the track, and this was under investigation by the stewards. Nikita Mazepin crossed the line, but was adjudged to have forced another driver off the track and was penalised, and he was absolutely furious in the end. But it was Yuki Tsunoda who took the victory, and he dedicated it to the late Anton Hubert, who was a big inspiration in his career, he stated. I mean, it was a shame that his win had to come in these circumstances with the penalty, but it was good to see him finally get a feature race victory after being robbed of one in Austria through a pit stop drama, and he almost was robbed of one today through another pit stop drama. But looking at the race result, it's Yuki Tsunoda who took the victory ahead of Nikita Mazepin in second. Mick Schumacher drove probably his best race of the season so far to finish in third place. Then you had Louis Delatraz who drove a good race in fourth. Robert Schwartzman had an issue in the pit stops which may have prevented him from challenging the two cars ahead. But he does still gain points in the standings. I believe the gap is now down to 7 points. Then you have Dan Ticktum in 6th. Guan Yu Zhu in 7th. He'll be starting from 2nd in tomorrow's reverse grid race. Roy Nissany, for me, driver of the race, taking reverse grid pole. And I think tomorrow's sprint race is going to be interesting with him on pole. And I'm interested to see where he can finish tomorrow. In 9th place, you had Luca Giotto, who pitted very early and was struggling with tyres at the end. And then Callum Aylott, what was going on with him today? He just appeared to have absolutely no pace that we're used to seeing from him. And he could only finish in 10th place. He struggled to even get past Giotto, who was on much older tyres. And then you have Vips, PK, Armstrong, Aitken, Sato, Markelov, Lundgaard, Alesi, Daruvala and Drugovic, who Daruvala and Drugovic lost their front wings during the race, with Samaya and Matsushita as the race's retirements. Whilst this race has also closed the gap up, it's also put Yuki Tsunoda, I believe he's like 11 points off the lead. He is in this fight, and knowing that there could be an F1 seat at stake, I think he is in a good... He could possibly win this title. Could Yuki Tsunoda? The Formula 3 race opened the day's proceedings, and the Formula 3 also saw quite an interesting race, where off the line, Lorem Zendelli held the lead going into the first corner, and Pourchaire did stay close, but he did kind of fall away a bit. Whilst there was contact at the start, which resulted in quite a damaged car for Andreas Essner, and Clement Novalak also had a puncture in the end as well. Then the virtual safety car was deployed after Alessio Deleda spun into the gravel at the Fagna chicane, and he was beached and out of the race. Pourchaire was keeping Zendelli honest at the first, but then he had quite a battle between Beckman and Smolia, who exchanged positions. Firstly, Beckman got past at the bus stop chicane, but that proved to be a mistake, as Smolia instantly got DRS and was able to get past the Trident driver. But Beckman then immediately responded by getting past. Then there was drama between Lawson and Piastri, as there was contact going... Piastri went for a move on Lawson, but there was contact. Both went across the chicane. Piastri ended up ahead, but gave the position back in the end. But he then managed to get past Lawson, who was really struggling on tyres. And then there was drama in the championship battle, as then Logan Sargent had a engine drama. He was able to finish the race, but he then dropped down the points. He still finished in the points, but he then lost out to Oscar Piastri, and then lost out to Ollie Caldwell. But it was Lorem Zendelli who finally took his first ever career victory after missing out on the last lap in the second race at Silverstone. Zendelli finally did it, and he took the victory. Ahead of Portier in second. He kept him honest at first, but then could not respond. David Beckman finished in third, ahead of Alexander Smolia in fourth, Oscar Piastri in fifth. Then it was Frederick Vesti, Ollie Coolwell, Logan Sargent finished in eighth, but starts third for tomorrow. Then you had Lawson and Bashaw, who gets reverse grid pole. Then you have Fernandez, Doohan, Nannini, Peroni had a difficult race. You had Hauger, Williams, Schumacher, Malvestiti, Fraga, Belov, Dunner, Chauvet, Viscal, Stanek, Das, Fittipaldi and Esner, with Novalak, Hughes and Deleda as the race's retirements. But this race does see Oscar Piastri retake the lead of the standings. I believe it's now a 3-point gap in the drivers' standings. But it's actually a 5-point gap because he must have got, I believe he got a point for fastest lap. So Oscar Piastri now leads the standings, and David Beckman has moved ahead of Liam Lawson for third. And of course, the main event of today was the qualifying session. And to start off, we're going to talk about the third practice. And Renault showed good pace whilst Lewis Hamilton was topping the timesheets, with both Renault-powered teams looking to be up there in the top 10. But the big story of practice 3 was Ferrari, 17th and 20th, which made for very grim prospects. And going into qualifying, there was thought that both cars may not even get, that they might even have the slowest car this weekend. And the reason it seems that Ferrari have been struggling so much this weekend is because they trimmed their car out for the high speeds to make up for the engine deficit. But in doing so, they have lost all their cornering benefits that they had. And now they're even worse than they were before. But both cars did make it past Q1, and out of Q1 in the first part of qualifying, we lost Magnussen, Latifi, Giovinazzi, Grosjean and Raikkonen. Kevin Magnussen went into the gravel on his final attempt, which put him at the back of the grid. But good showing from George Russell, who got into Q2. 13th and 14th for Ferrari, I'm pretty sure they will take after what a difficult weekend that they have had. I'm pretty sure they will take. But it's going to be a tough race for them tomorrow. Then you had Danny Kvyat, who out-qualified Pierre Gasly for the first time this season. I believe for the first time in quite a long time. Then rounding out the top 10, you had Lando Norris. And then you had the two Racing Points, who I'm pretty sure will be quite disappointed with 8th and 9th. But the Renault-powered teams seem to be very good around here. That Renault engine used to be underpowered, but now it seems to be really good. Then you had Carlos Sainz in 7th, just behind Esteban Ocon in 6th. Good qualifying, really good qualifying for Renault. Then you have Albon and then Daniel Ricciardo. Watch out for him on the first lap, because that Renault seems to be the fastest car in a straight line. And if he is in striking distance, he will have fanciest chances against the leading three. And we know from the past, give him a chance, he will send it. And so I think there is a chance Ricciardo could take the lead in the early stages of the race. Max Verstappen qualified in third, and it was an all-Mercedes front row, but Valtteri Bottas had absolutely no answer for his teammates' pace. Lewis Hamilton was in dominant form throughout qualifying, throughout Q3. He was 5/10 ahead going after the first round's runs, and he maintained that advantage in the second runs. I mean, his lap was incredible to watch. I mean, particularly through the middle sector, the car was on rails and he was in full command. And it was no doubt about his pole position. He broke the track record and he took pole position. So, that is it for the Saturday recap. just talking about what to expect for tomorrow, because of course there is the imminent threat of rain, which is apparently set to fall in the afternoon during the race. Of course, we know from recent races that we have to take threats of rain with a pinch of salt. But if it's a dry race, obviously this will be Lewis's race to lose. But if it's a wet race, that could put Verstappen into it. But where will Ricciardo end up on the first lap? That is a big talking point. I think we should. If he is behind the leading trio, he will fancy his chances. Right behind the leading trio, he will fancy his chances against them and try to send it. And I think he has what it takes to take the lead going into Le. But thank you very much for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for the Sunday recap, where hopefully we will recap what will be an exciting Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. Goodbye.